Hello everyone, James Williams, MEF Director of Programs. If you've just joined us for the jury, a very good move, because that means it's the end of a day and you join us towards the end of day one of MEF Connects Wholesale 2021. And if there ever was a wholesale event that made you realize that wholesale is far more than just SMS and voice, this is it. We've had some fantastic sessions today with Susie talking about voice, with Ignacio talking about the whole area of 5G. We've had Giovanni Bonini looking at the area of OTTs. Of course, I had to cover SMS today, didn't I, myself? And I did. And so many other things. Of course, Andrew, how can I forget Andrew looking at IoT, and tomorrow far more to come, but I'm sure Dario will be covering that after the jury. Now, many of you will probably be joining us for the first time, and the jury, it's a very, very simple idea. If you think of Eurovision, if you're from the EU or Europe and you've heard of the Eurovision Song Contest, you'll know what this is. This is basically the mobile version of Eurovision. But in simple language, I created 3 questions. The speakers, the contestants really, received the questions some time ago. They've had time to prepare. They each have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. And after each person has had a go at answering the question, then you, the viewers, have the power and you will vote live in the polling section, the polls you'll be familiar with today. Now, with regards to the connectivity side of things, we are aware that not every single person in the world is connected. And indeed, I understand one of our contestants is having a few connectivity issues, but we will find out how things are going a little later. Now, let's get to it with our contestants. First up, I'd like to invite board member and founder and chairperson of iTouch messaging. That would be Mr. Waheed Adam. Hey, Waheed.
Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for having me.
You always put me to shame with all those books behind, and I guess you read them as well. Not just for show, they're not just for show. So let's see how you've been doing today with the answers to the questions, Waheed. But anyway, do you want to give us just a few seconds about iTouch?
Yes, iTouch is an A2P messaging provider in the African region more particularly, but and that being our core service. But outside of that, also provide communication platforms, our version of rich media messaging as a precursor to RCS, which I've spoken about for many years, as you know. And yeah, we provide some platforms to MNOs, particularly in the MVNX space. And interestingly, USSD stuff, but in Europe.
Wow, in Europe? Wow, that's really interesting. Fantastic. So how long have you been in telecoms now?
Oh, I guess I got involved in the early 2000s. So,
right, okay.
Yeah.
So a nice 16, 17 years, something like that. Right. Excellent. Well, a very warm welcome to the show, because it is a show, sir. It is a show. You've watched this before, I know. Next up, I'm pleased to say we've got some great African representation in the event today is Mr. Katlego Mashigo, Commercial Director with the Apprentice Valley. Katlego, hey, great to see you.
Great to see you too, James. How are you doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
No, yeah, we're not talking about SMS commercial models today or RCS commercial models. It's something a little bit different, I'm pleased to say. But hey, we'll be back down to business very, very soon, sir. So could you give us an idea about the Apprentice Valley or Apprentice Valley? What do you guys do?
Sure. So Apprentice Valley is an internal WASP operating very much in the same space as Waheed has mentioned from an iTouch perspective. You know, last mile communication, obviously, bulk of that being messaging, your USSDs, your reversible data, your rich communication, etc. We didn't have the precursor, but we are on the RCS bandwagon as well. A lot to do with the telecoms. We work very closely with the MNOs, and we don't at the moment operate much in Europe, but a lot of presence on the continent.
Fantastic. So I see you've got a picture of Steve Jobs behind you. Are you looking to him for some inspiration, or do you think you've got this linked there?
Yeah. So on the commercial side, I think we operate a lot in his spirit. You know, we demand the impossible from the tech guys, and we leave the headaches to them.
Let's hope your boss doesn't demand the impossible from you today. We'll find out. The audience will tell us. They'll tell us. So thank you. A very warm welcome. Next up, we've got Alex Ciubuc, who is the co-founder and chief revenue officer of Enabled. We just had your colleague Karim on a little bit earlier with Gio talking about OTTs. A very warm welcome, Alex. Hi.
Hi, James. How are you doing?
Doing all right, thank you. Doing all right. I always like this session of the jury, and I hope the audience does. I don't know about the participants so much, and that would be you today, but we're going to find out very, very soon. Anyway, a quick bit about Enabled. Go on, introduce us to your company.
Yeah, sure. Enabled is a CPaaS enablement provider. We offer a portfolio of CPaaS solutions, such as an SMS gateway for wholesale business, a white label enterprise messaging platform, an SMS firewall solution, a cloud numbers management portfolio, and we have many more in our roadmap, such as RCS, OTT messaging, WebRTC, and so on.
Yeah, you've got everything covered. And I think you're in Brussels, aren't you? That's where Matteo, our previous speaker, is. But a lot of your company people, I think, in Moldova, companies based in Moldova, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Brussels since I worked for the past 12 years at BIX. And indeed, the operations and the development, the product development are based out of Moldova, which is my home country.
Fantastic. So very, very nice segue from the previous session with Dario interviewing. And last but absolutely by no means least, and this is regarding connectivity, we're going to find out Mr. Constantinides, not lost by least, we've got one more. Mr. Constantinides.
Hello there. Hello. Nice to see you all, guys. Some of you I saw you a few days ago, 3 days ago in this splendid event in Madrid. I'm really very happy to be here, James. Thank you for the invitation. Nice to see you all, guys.
A very warm welcome, and hearing you having some fun and games with internet connectivity, thanks to good old Works on the Road.
Yeah, well, today they decided to change the street outside the office, so we have a little bit problems with connection, but we are doing fine so far.
Of course, you're here. So, Andreas, we've known each other for quite a few years. The first time I met you, I remember, was actually the Malta Telecom Summit. That was a good few years ago. Just introduce people who may not be so familiar with you. Who are you? What do you do? And what does your company do?
Well, Modern 160 is a consultancy firm dealing with messaging, and we provide training, consultancy, and HR services for messaging and voice people. In fact, it's all about telcos, consultancy firm about telcos. The HR is the biggest thing. Now, at the moment, we're launching the first Business Messaging Academy, which is going to be launched at 12th of October. And yes, we're doing fun so far, and we're really very happy.
Fantastic. Great to have you with us. And we have also joining us Mr. Karim Mehouri. Karim, hi.
Hi. Hi, Harry. How are you? Nice to meet you. Really happy to be here with you.
Fantastic. So you're in France, but PaaSoo, I think, I'm right in saying your HQ actually is in Hong Kong?
Absolutely. Our HQ is in Hong Kong. PaaSoo is a CPaaS platform. We are the SMS aggregator as well. And we are really strong in Asia, especially in China, Hong Kong, and India as well.
Fantastic. So I chose these participants really to get them a little bit out of their comfort zones, because we're not just going to be talking about SMS. I think if ever there was a panel that anyone would want to try and put me on to get me out of my comfort zone, it would be this one right here. So we're going to get going with the first question very, very soon. But first of all, I've got the little matter of deciding who is going to go first. Now, you can see these are handmade, highly valuable pieces of paper with each of your names on. And here I have a cap. There we go. So your names go in here. So very simply, whoever I pull out first gets to go first. So could we have the first question, please, rolling on the screen, production team? There we go. We've been hearing about wholesale all day. Is it just commoditization in some fancy clothes, or is there more to it? We're going to be finding out. So let's find out which person my hand chooses. Hand chooses Mr. Waheed Adam. Your 2 minutes start now.
All right. So I hope to be a little bit more controversial on this particular show. But look, I would say fancy clothes indeed. So yeah, largely commoditized, and mostly I would say there are not too many differentials between the different operators, and it doesn't quite matter from region to region. You know, the issues I've had in one country, I've experienced the same issues in another country. So I'd largely say yes, mostly. They tend to follow each other. You know, if one creates a commercial model around, for example, international hub for messaging, which doesn't make sense to me, and it seems to be, you know, working, then the others just seem to follow. What they do have differently, however, is marketing agencies creating the fancy clothes, the different look, and they all then say, well, we're independently doing what we do. But yes, independently, and I want to come to that for a moment, they tend to work autonomously rather than collaboratively, which to me comes at the cost of consumer benefit and certainly hinders innovation. So for me, yeah, I think that's the problem, but it is what it is. Fancy clothes indeed.
I'm on mute. I had to do it. That was me. That was 1 minute 30, sir. So well under the 2 minutes. I didn't have to cut you off. So the next person and contestant is Alex. Your 2 minutes starts now. 4:06:55. Go for it.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I think I can share a little bit about this question, since I've been working in the wholesale industry for the past 15 years at carriers like Bix and Deutsche Telekom Group, etc. So yes and no. Yes, I mean, if you think about the wholesale industry as pure SMS and voice trading, then indeed, I agree with Waheed that it has become quite a commodization in some fancy clothes. On the other hand, if you look at some innovative carriers, at those carriers who have diversified their service portfolios with some innovative solutions like mobile identity services or voice analytics with artificial intelligence sauce, etc., two-factor authentication via flash calls and so on. So those carriers, I believe, managed to diversify their portfolios and in a way break out from the traditional wholesale industry. So yeah, basically it really depends on each carrier and on their product strategy and their go-to-market strategy.
Well, very, very good. That was 1 minute 20. Well under. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, so I'm giving you a cheesy grin, game show style. Who have we got? We've got Karim. You're up next. Yeah. It's 4:08:35. Go for it.
Okay, so thank you for this. So yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I would say also yes and no. It is a commodity, of course. It is easy to text or call people with all technology we have today, with all our powerful laptops and smartphones. But it is a critical service for service providers and people. So just have an idea about the market size, going to double in the next 5 years. It is today $20 billion market. And in 5 years, it will be $45 billion market. So for a commodity, it's going to be really, really important. And so it has been demonstrated during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic situation, how it is important to call or to text people, especially calling my customers or my family. For me, is priceless. So the value of our market is really big. It's going to be really grow really quickly. And we can see it will be derived for the growth will be derived from several things like the voice over IP transformations, the OTT as well. We have a huge impact on this market. The integration of the API as well will be really key. So it is a commodity, but on the SMS, it's not as. For my industry, it's not a commodity anymore. For the people, it is not for my industry. We can see how it is complex today to integrate all these channels to communicate with the people in terms of infrastructures, in terms of regulation as well, to interconnect with the service providers. So it is really complex, and it's not a commodity anymore for the service providers as we are as PaaSoo.
Very good. 1 minute 50, 10 seconds under. Very, very good, sir. Maximizing time there. We've got two people left, so I think we're going to work out who's next. Or are we? I really don't know. Mr. Constantinides, let's show us that you're more than SMS, more than 160. Go for it, sir.
Well, thank you very much. So, as you know, I'm always the bad guy of the telecom, and I'm not going to be so polite. I like the other colleagues that I respect their point of view, and they're really, really very right. However, you know, if you tell me about the wholesale, I will tell you that, yes, I can see very fancy clothes, but very cheap ones also. And this has happened because the wholesale, the last, I don't know, forever, the last 10 years, it's cannibalized from its own people. And this is really very bad for the industry. Yes, I can tell about new fancy clothes in voice, in messaging, much more, as you know, with the Ortiz and all of the stuff. But the point is that we have as an industry stop ruin this falling of the industry, because at the end of the day, we're going to work for nothing. So very fancy clothes, but very cheap clothes. This is what I have to say.
Thank you. Very short and to the point. Thank you, Andreas. Very, very strong message there. Very strong indeed. And Katlego, the floor is yours. Off you go, sir, for 11:58.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm just as polite as my other colleagues. I wouldn't want to antagonize the wholesalers, but I absolutely echo the sentiments of my colleagues. It is, commoditization in just fancy clothes. I do also question the quality of those clothes in some instances, because we do see some level of, cannibalism. If I'm to borrow Andreas' wording in that regard. And it was quite startling to me today to hear across different, not just messaging, but across, different and various sectors and industries, that wholesale seems to follow a particular modus operandi in the way in which they operate. In the context of where we are, you see the MNOs largely being the biggest guys and holding us in certain aspects to ransom on that. On their ability to be wholesalers and the way in which they choose to move forward in that regard. At some point, MNOs didn't care much. It was just a P2P kind of function, particularly in the messaging space. And then today, as Waheed has mentioned, we're discussing, international hubs, because we all look at the value in which the technology is there. So they have the asset, and they are now using it to kind of, stretch it as far and as wide as possible to make each extra dollar, each extra rand, each and every time. So I fully echo the sentiments of my colleagues in the commoditization in fancy clothing.
Fantastic. So just under 1 minute 50 there. All of you, I can't believe it. I haven't had the fun of having to step in and cut you off. All very, very, very good in terms of timing. So now the pressure's on you, audience. And a poll is open. Just checking my other computer, and I can see a poll is open. It's up to you, and you've got 60 seconds to vote as to who you thought spoke the best answering that question. Go for it, audience. Thank you. And in the meantime, I think we can talk, folks. We can carry on talking. But no, a very, very good point. And so on my panel before, talking about SMS, we had Dimitri from MTN Global Connect, and he raised the important issue of being able to differentiate the content, for example, in SMS, and attribute different values to it. And again, personally, I think that would be absolutely great, but still there's this race to the bottom. But wholesale SMS in particular, for example, can be so much more than that, in my opinion. I'm sure many of you here agree.
I think that's why we all spoke under 2 minutes. The answer was quite simple. But I love Andreas' cheap clothing, and that to me takes it.
Yeah, it does. So actually, and talking about OTTs, I'm going to get the results via a well-known OTT, not SMS, because of the charging model from Brazil. So thank you, audience, for voting. Carol is online. That's good. I can see she's online. So I'm just waiting for the results now. Oh, they're in. Let me go in. and C. Okay, so I need to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with points. So, so 5 is the highest amount of points. 1 is going to be the lowest amount of points. Karim, you unfortunately have 1 point from this round.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And then we have a second equal, Mr. Ciubuc and Constantinides. Both of you, both of the ACs have 2 points. Let me write this down in my high-tech
Thank you.
scoreboard. And yeah, and that's it. And then we have in second place with 4 points, Mr. Katlego Mashigo. Congratulations. This means there has to be a winner, and the winner of this round, because there are 2 more to come, is Mr. Waheed Adam.
Congrats, congratulations.
Mr. Adam. Yeah, come on, you're allowed to clap for yourself, sir. There we go.
He has more fun than Earth.
Anything goes, anything goes. Right, so all these wonderful high-tech pieces of paper go back into my wonderful cap. By the way, it's a Nike cap. This brand is from 1972, the exact same age as me, by the way. That's why I do love the Nike brand. No plug. Unfortunately, I don't get paid by them. But there we go. And we're off next up. Can we please have the second question running across the screen? Thank you very much. Is the game up for wholesale voice as we know it? Is it curtains? Is it game over? 2 minutes. First up, we have Karim, please. Your 2 minutes starts now, 4:17:30.
Okay, so thank you again. So the challenge for this, for us as this industry, for the SMS, will be to adapt to the new services and keep the high margin to drive the growth. As we discussed before, the market is going to grow. So the question, what will be replaced, the SMS, or what will be compete against the SMS? So to continue this growth, the SMS will be needs to follow what the messaging industry will offer to us. And I guess the challenge will be to adapt technically. So we saw there is RCS capabilities that will help us to provide more content and more two-way conversations with the customers. So I think it will be, as we know the SMS, it will for sure change in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Really nice, to the point. Mr. Mashigo, please. Go for it. 4:18:33.
Cool. Out of my comfort zone, eh? Okay. So I'll say yes and no. I think that in recent times, we've seen a lot of disruption in the wholesale space across different products, and particularly with voice. I don't think we anticipated the speed at which data, 5G and other connection and other methods of communication would kind of overtake voice. But I think the MNOs and the wholesalers, particularly in that space, are still very much geared to be the front runners in whatever we build onto. We criticize them to be slow sometimes, but they still hold very valuable information that the likes of your Googles and your Facebook don't have access to. And I think that's what puts them ahead of others. But wholesale, as we know it, I would say yes. I don't think it has a long lifespan left.
Okay, thank you. Very, very clear. Very clear. There's no, you said yes, but no, you were very clear at the end there. There's no messing around, no sitting on that fence or wall for you, sir. And next up, I'm trying here with my little cap there. Alex, you're next up, sir. Go for it.
Sure. Thank you, James. Well, the game, is definitely not up for the wholesale business. For the carriers who continue to innovate and invest in launching new services, especially looking at CPaaS players, like Cinch or Twilio or MessageBird. I mean, those people are basically revolutionizing this voice and SMS wholesale industry And I think there's still a lot of revenues to new revenue streams to add to the existing wholesale business model. However, the players who are staying in their comfort zone and are focusing only on, maximizing profits in the SMS and voice trading alone, or in grabbing a bigger market share, where definitely for those players, the game is almost up, because definitely the pure trading business is going down, and the international wholesale is going down. But then on the other hand, you have such solution as SIP tracking, for example, or cloud numbers, which are creating new revenue streams and new volumes. So definitely the game is still open.
Well, very different. Thank you very much. But that's what it's all about, bringing out opinions on real issues. And thankfully, not all opinions are the same. So next up, we have our last two. We go for this one. Andreas, you're next, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Well, I'm not going to be pessimistic. Usually I'm not. But as a consultant, I have more to focus on revenues instead of the traffic that comes and goes and nothing happened. So the answer is really very clear that no, voice has still a long way to go. And this is, and the messaging also. And I mean, telcos, we are doing fine. The point is to maintain the values, to maintain the revenues, to adjust, to have a health competition, and not to eat of our skins, the skin one of another. Has to be reasonable, the competition. And the most important thing, we have to follow the new trends. So no, voice is going to be there for many, many years. I don't know about the revenues, but this is about us. This is about the industry to maintain them. Thank you, James.
Okay, thank you. Very definitive there. Very, very definitive. And Waheed, you know the drill, sir. Your 2 minutes starts now, 4:22.
Thank you. They say the height of insanity is when you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. So it is very clear that the OTT world has now surpassed GSM voice. I mean, we've heard about it today earlier in the sessions as well. So I want to tell you a quick story. In the early 2000s, when Skype began and they were figuring out their commercial model, they looked at what the price trends were, and it was certainly moving downward. So they thought, well, where do we price it on that downward scale? And eventually, as you all know, it became the zero charge, right? And that's where they went, because that's where pricing was heading. And what they did is they kind of got the infrastructure cost to be transferred to the consumer. It was your laptop, it was your data, etc., right? So they brought their costs way down in order to facilitate the no-charge cost, and then built a model around business communication, which eventually, as you all know, made them a lot of money. So I'm saying that the MNOs, in terms of voice, have got a similar thing happening. I mean, it's been happening for years. Until they get and Andreas was talking about what is the revenue model, but until they get the revenue model in line with where it's heading, and actually see what ODT as a fraction of a cent is charging, and you get to that level, you're not going to be in the voice space as you have been before. So that line is coming to an end. And I guess if they're going to get to that point of charging a fraction or become the owners of OTT platforms themselves, they remain relevant within voice. Otherwise, they're going to have to look at other VAT services to make money.
Fantastic. So 14 seconds under. And yeah, my hat is empty. That's it, folks. So again, the audience, you've got the power. 60 seconds up, please. The countdown clock starts. The poll is going to be opened, and off you go. And I'm going to wait for the answer by a well-known OTT on my phone here. But anyway, regarding voice, so no, just before the OTT related session, there was Patrick, who was talking about the whole OTT thing from telegeography, principal analyst with telegeography. And he's been there since day one of telegeography, I know, which is 19 years now. So he's been following voice for 19 years. But it's his last comment, and I picked on that up earlier, with 9 billion PSTN connections. Voice has to still be with us for a number of years. And then on my SMS panel as well, They're talking about some fantastic use cases. This was in Gambia, with farmers who can't read. They were having the SMS translated basically into voice. So voice still has a role to play.
No doubt. It's not going away.
No, it's not going away.
To be the big play, it needs innovation.
Yeah, it does. But it all comes down to the commercial model at the end of the day, as you know very well, Mr. Adam. And as we all know within MEF, working on commercial models. Anyway, so the results will be in soon. And thank you very much, audience, for staying with us towards the end of the day for this jury. We've got one more question to all the contestants after this, and then we'll know the final results. Just waiting for the answer. Oh my, never had this before in all the juries I've done. So there's not just one of you, or two of you, or three of you, or four of you with the same mark, shall we say, from the audience. Yes, there's four of you. There are actually four of you. So 4 of you actually get 1 point. And I'm just going to write this down here before I tell you who. Now, I don't know. How do I do this? So
tell us who is having the more
tell us.
To understand.
I know. What do I do? So is it Mr. Constantinides who has won? Is it Mr. Mashigo, Ciubuc, Mehouri, or Adam? The answer is it's Mr. Waheed Adam. You take 5 points.
Whoa.
Everyone else got the same result.
So, wonderful.
So 5, 10, 5. I'm just trying to do maths here. But there we go. So I've done my maths. There we go. So there we go. I should put this back in. I've done my maths, and I could say something, but I won't at this point because it would spoil it for those of you who've done their basic counting. But there we go. So we have the third question back on screen. It came up a little bit earlier, a little bit too quick, but there we go. This is the one actually I think is probably one of the best questions we've ever had on a jury, because it allows you to provide the best, the worst, and something in between, sitting on the fence and on the wall. So you can answer all 3 in one. And that would be now, Mr. Waheed Adam, you're going first again, sir. So I want the good, the bad, and the ugly of wholesale. And I don't want you to hold back, please. You're 2 minutes.
All right. I promise I'll be controversial. So please. I'll start with the easy one, and that's the ugly, right? The ugly is that the truth is the commercial models are not going to work if you want to remain active in voice and SMS. And we understand that if we don't innovate commercial models, well, you're going to be taken over by the other providers in terms of OTT, etc. So I won't go into more detail. I think we've discussed some of that. Then I'll go to the Clint Eastwood or the good side of things, right? The good side of things is that operator networks are still required. I mean, it's not that the business model's dead, right? It's still there. Every new technology coming out requires the actual network. So if it does take on the challenges of new services and technologies without trying to be insular and do everything for everybody, then my take is that the good side is that there's other revenue models, value-added services, and opportunities that will come to light. I mean, we still got to see the impact of 5G, for example, and how many opportunities that creates for all of us, as a matter of speaking. Then let's get to the bad side, right? And the bad side is what the operators themselves are doing that I believe is going to hinder their own well-being. And I mentioned it earlier, and I'll bring up that as one example, in that if you take the ideas of international hubs and their pricing or commercial models on that, which perhaps you're routing messaging through a more secure component, getting it into country where you can measure, and there may be an increase to cost of that. However, when you're talking about some pricing being 800% more, that doesn't make sense. And when I look at the enterprise clients that we serve, they're starting to look at...
That's enough. 2 minutes. 2 minutes are over. There's no grace. There's no two seconds extra, 5 seconds extra. That's it. That's all you get. Excellent, excellent. It's the first time someone pushed to the limit on the show so far. So there we go. Next up, we have Katlego. Go for it, sir. Your 2 minutes starts now. 4:30:42.
Cool, thank you. I'll start with what Waheed referred to as the difficult side, which is the good, right? And I think the most important part of wholesale is it gives us a starting point. It gives us a base in which to work from. And everything else is informed by that. Our commercial models, how we operate in our markets, all of that really for me comes from a baseline of the good side of wholesale, and that comes from wholesale. The bad side of wholesale for me is also tied into a lot of what we've already said, the lack of innovation, particularly I'll make reference to a lot of the MNOs, which are the biggest wholesalers, I would say, in our space. And it's just the how slow the wheels turn in the aspect of innovation when it comes to commercial models, when it comes to the productization of new innovation. RCS is a case in point, and how slow the MNOs are in that regard in developing these things that are coming into the market. So us as retailers also then struggle with that. And the ugly side of wholesale for me also comes from a lack of protection, when it comes to, we look at how there's different rules from, SS7s and the SMPPs, so there isn't a level playing field, but we're all speaking to the same clients. So if we were all to have to play by the same rules or speak the same language, then I feel from a wholesale perspective, there'd be a little more, that base point would be really a fair base point. We'd all start from zero, from wholesale, and then go out and conquer. And that's the ugly side of wholesale for me. But the good side is that we all have a focal point. And I'll just keep it sweet and just.
Bang on. You're 2 seconds under, and I'm not meant to have an opinion. I'm the moderator, but I'm a bad moderator. C word, consistency. Thank you very much. Thank you, Katlego. Next up, I'm going to go for Alex. Your call. 2 minutes starts now. 4:33 exactly.
Thank you, James. So on the good side, definitely, like Waheed mentioned, there's still need of the big network operators. Certainly connectivity is needed because LTE technology is creating a lot more data. And I'm so excited about all those new use cases that are created by connecting more IoT devices and creating more machine-to-machine traffic and machine-to-person and person-to-machine traffic. So there is going to be a lot of good change in the industry. And definitely there's a lot of innovation and a lot of new services being added by the carriers, like AI for voice analytics, trying to identify customer sentiment and behavior, all kinds of authentication services, etc. On the bad side, it takes a cultural change and mentality change to adapt to the new realities, to the new consumer. I would say digital savvy consumers, and many wholesale carriers have cultures and people who are very much in their comfort zone with what they used to do for the past 20 years, selling and buying minutes and SMS. So you really have to change people's and company mentalities, and it's difficult, and it takes it definitely can affect some people. Maybe they can be out of their jobs or whatever. On the ugly side, I would say that I don't really see ugly sides. I see room for change and innovation. So to me, it's all about these companies changing their cultures, investing in their people.
That's it. Game over, sir.
Technologies.
Game over. Just managed to squeeze that in under there. 1 second, though. We'll let you off. There we go. And next up, we have Karim. Please go for it, sir.
Thank you.
4:35:15.
Okay. So, I think we are lucky to work on this wholesale industry. The good things are we are connecting people to talk the good price or and at a really good quality. Also, we are in front of this new technology. We see this IT and telecommunication convergence that creating a lot of new use case, and which is really good for the development of our industry for the next years. I think I'm really happy to be in the part of this game. So it's a privilege. So now about the bad and ugly parts, I would say we are coming from the SMS and RCS and all this kind of technology. This IP transition is creating problems in terms of security that we need to look at this really seriously, and that will be the challenge part of our industry for the next years. We are in front of, we have to deal with a lot of scammers trying to set phishing content via our platforms. So we need to be really strong in terms of security. And this is the ugly part that we need to fight a lot for. And these things will be a big problem for the future as well. So yeah, to summarize, I think I'm really happy and to be part of this industry because we are lucky to connect people.
Fantastic. Well in time, and I took that IP transition and I was doing some late homework there because I'm moderating a security session. I just added that IP transition down for that. So thank you very much indeed for helping with my homework.
Thank you.
Last, but by no means least, we've got Mr. Constantinides again. Andreas, very warm welcome. And this is it. Go for it, sir.
Hello. I would like to say that I vote for Waheed. Okay, that is 1 point from me. So concerning the good, bad, and the ugly, I will be more specific, and I will say, no, I'm not going to say companies, okay? I will say that the good part, it's the OTT players, because they're innovative, they're going really very fast, so they understand the market and they provide results, and this is the good part. The bad thing for the industry, I can say that it's the classic big providers that they are moving really very slow, they're a bit arrogant. They don't provide, alternatives. They don't provide new technology. Most of the time, there's, let's say, old-fashioned. The ugly is the bad competition that kills the prices. And this is something that happens in voice and messaging. We know that because they try to take some little less quality traffic. But if we see in the whole industry that we will realize that the game is played between the serious players and the expensive prices. Because if you are expensive, you can have profit, and then you can have research, and then you have innovation, and then you can provide things. So this is the ugly part, that the very difficult and aggressive competition for nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Super clear with your opinions there. And this brings to the close the last answer to the last question. You can see there 60 seconds to vote. You can see the poll is open, and that's it. So panelists, this is it. The last 60 seconds for us to talk together about that. It all comes down to commercial model and consistency again there, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Huge. I think there's a lot of nuggets I took from everybody here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we've seen it today. We've heard of it today, and all of us in our business dealings for many years. And I know a number of you personally have known you for a number of years. You're so experienced in this area. It's just, there's so much value from SMS, from voice, from the other channels. There's huge amounts of value to enterprises. For example, in a one-time password, there's no need in many cases to actually send something in the post, a pin in the post from a credit card company. That can cost £3, say €3, almost €4 to do that. When you
the
can
operators,
do that
James,
today. So it's huge value.
The operators got to leave some of that value on the table for others.
Yeah, commercial model. There we go. Thank you very much. And just waiting for, the last message from this well-known OTT. No plugs allowed, apart from for baseball caps. But there we go. Oh, okay. So we have 2 people with 1. Yeah, I'm trying to work this out in my head. It's me and my maths. We have 2. Now's the time to ask me for a discount. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Dario,
No problem.
Ask me now. My math brain has collapsed. So we have 2 people with 1 mark, and we have 3 people share the upper mark. So I'm going to do 2 people with 1 point, and that is going to be Alex and Karim. Let me write this down. And then 3 of you, that's, you know who the 3 of you are. That's Andreas, Katlego, and Waheed. I'm going to each give you 2 points. So let me just add this up 1 second. Bear with me. I'm going to do my music on hold. 12. There we go. Fantastic. And so first of all, thank you very much indeed, all of you, for being really, really good sports. You've been absolutely amazing. The questions, though, have been deadly serious when it comes to the world of wholesale. We heard opening up today's proceedings, Julian Watson, analyst with Omdia, telling us how big the wholesale market is. There's huge amounts of growth out there. There really is when it comes to wholesale messaging, voice, data, you name it, and you're all part of it. So thank you very much for being part of it. And just like to say that all of you are absolute winners because you're here. You've joined my session. You've had the guts to do it. So thank you. But in 5th place, we've got Karim from PaaSoo. Karim, thank you very much for joining us. Well done, sir. 5th place. Next up, we have Alex in 4th place. We have Andreas in 3rd place. We have Katlego in 2nd place. And we have Waheed. Who was that? They can't blame Victor the cat for that one. They can blame a lot on him, but not that. And we've got Waheed, a winner. So the African continent have really taken it today. South Africa, in fact. Congratulations to and Waheed.
Thank you very much, James. It was a pleasure.
Well done, chaps. Andreas, lovely having you. So thank you very much, all of you, all you viewers.
Thank you for the invitation.
Hope you've enjoyed day 1 of MEF Connects Wholesale 2021. And I'll be handing over now imminently to Dario Betti, MEF CEO, to round off day 1. Thank you all, and have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.